could it be that the meaning of something is simply the pattern of relations that allows it to make a difference in a life, to a moment, to a world? Not a secret essence or a definition in a dusty book, but a web of connections to memory, to hope, to fear, to power, to possibility that makes this world, this sound, this story matter right now. If that is true, then the meaning of meaning is already tangled up with us, with who is speaking, with who is listening, with who chooses not to, with what we're both carrying into this moment, what connects us in it. And in my case, and within this context, the story of meaning is also the story of one man and one mic. Somewhere, sometime around 2019. Back then, podcasting, at least for him, wasn't a business model or a content strategy. It was an act of quiet rebellion, a way to add a splash of color and life to the learning experience in a world that often made learning feel grey, standardized, and politely exhausted. One man in a room talking into a mic, saying, "I refuse to let language be only a test. It has to be a place where people can live." The podcast became a way to take ownership of voice. On paper, other people had already defined him: nationality, accent, profession, skin, status, other. But the moment the record button was pressed, one was no longer only seen, but in many moments, one was self, digital identity, not as a product of someone else's projection, but as a deliberate practice of owning one's being. This is how one thinks when one is not being observed. And in sending that sound out into the world, one was also quietly inviting others to do the same. You, too, are allowed to claim your own voice. You, too, are allowed to sound like where you're from and where you're going. You, too, are allowed to learn in color, not just in black and white. At its heart, this little podcast was a celebration of the democratization of learning. Not learning as something guarded by whatever, but learning as something you could stumble into on a walk, on a bus, in the kitchen at midnight. Paulo Freire reminds us that education can either reproduce conformity or become a practice of freedom that lets people deal critically and creatively with reality and transform their world. A mic and an audio feed are not in and of themselves a revolution, but they are cracking the wall. They say you do not have to wait to be invited to speak. And now, a few years later, something even stranger and more powerful is in the room with us: AI. Gone are the days when one felt the need to tell it on the mountain that we all have the world in our pockets in the form of a smartphone. Everybody knows it. Suddenly the tools that once belonged only to studios, publishers, and gatekeepers of all sorts were now in the hands of students, migrants, night shift workers, parents on their lunch break. AI can help us to shape a paragraph, sharpen a question, rehearse a speech, converse with ideas, shape them, sketch a world today that didn't exist yesterday. If meaning is relational, then AI is like a wild new node in a web of relations. It helps people who were told their language was broken hear their thoughts, come back to them with respect. It lets shy voices test out their courage in the safety of a text box. It lets a young person and an old in a crowded flat in Berlin, Lagos, Kingston, or Krakow rehearse their ideas as if the whole world were listening. Of course, these tools can be used to dominate, to standardize, to flatten. Paulo Freire warned that education can be used as an instrument of conformity just as easily as a path to freedom. But they can also be used to widen the circle if we choose. Think of bell hooks talking about the classroom as the most radical space of possibility in the academy when it becomes a place where all voices are recognized and taken seriously. Now imagine that classroom extended through microphones and models and fiber optic cables into kitchens, buses, smartphones, bunk beds, and break rooms. That's where AI gets me interested. Not as a replacement for human presence, but as an amplifier of it. A way of building worlds within reach. Worlds where more people can test a thought, tell a story, try a new identity safely, and hear themselves as possible, not just almost correct. So when I think about the meaning of meaning today, I don't think of semantics or philosophy. I think of one man and one mic in 2019 refusing to let his voice be defined for him. The listeners who found in that sound a reflection of their own in-between lives. The learners who now sit down with AI and say, help me say what I really mean, and sometimes help me find out what I mean at all. Meaning isn't a substance we pour into young people. It's a torch we pass. And if there is a quiet hope in all of this, it's this. One day I may not have the strength, the access, or even the time to change the world in the ways it still needs to be changed. But there are young people listening now, on the train, in their rooms between shifts, listening not only for vocabulary, but voice, and learning not just grammar puzzles, but gaze. They're the ones who will take the baton, guard the flame, and be the beacons in places I will never stand. If our mics and our classrooms and even our algorithms have meant anything at all, it will be because they helped those young people recognize themselves as world makers and not footnotes. And maybe, just maybe, that is the deepest meaning of meaning. That something we say or build today can travel forward in other lives and light the path we will never walk, in a future we will never see, carried by hands that are only just now learning to speak. Yes, people, are we then so we stay. I hope you like the little monologue we just do a while ago. And I'm going to just tell you now what it's all about, yeah? Because it's like over the past, I would say about 18 months, I've been working on this AI tutor. And some of you might know already, but I've been teaching English here in Germany, Berlin, Germany, for about 18 years. And the last period, or the last, let's say the last big job I did have, was working with A-level English. And it's like when we go through it, it's like I have to really make some changes, some big changes, and it's like me just start build up a AI thing for kind of help me with my work. It's not like the AI was doing my work, but you know what I mean. These days, you know, them say, you know, it's either AI going to take a job or people that use AI going to take a job. So me just say, boy, I'm gonna do my thing. I'm gonna build my little assistant. Over the past few months, I've had a little bit of extra time, and I have put this assistant together. Her name is Sibylle. And Sibylle, yeah, I'm going to say it the right way, like we say it in Germany. She is actually, some people say it's an alter ego, but, you know, I don't really know about that. But from 2020, me I work with her. You know. The first person who actually helped me to put Sibylle to movement was a dancer called Lydia Grimm. And yeah, man, big up Lydia. As you know, you were the first, and you know, I'm still very grateful for that. You know, that things have changed. I think we haven't seen each other since Corona time or slightly before, and that was about the time when she actually put the character of Sibylla to movement for the first time. So again, big up. Now, what has happened over the past many years? You know, it's 2005 now. It's almost 2006. Is that this same person, you know, at first she was like an inspiration to kind of spice up my podcast at the time. I used to call it English Coach Podcast, Living the Language. And I kind of developed Sibylla as a character. And it's like, you know, she was just there to kind of, you know, when I say something like strict in English, I just say, boy, Sibylla says so, and me says so. And, you know, it's like a gimmick comedy I work with. Now, it's like after all this time, you know, you have to kind of negotiate and kind of navigate how you're going to justify all of them things that we do, all them things that we try, and try to find meaning into, you know, all them little extra things we do, you know, to kind of make this whole language learning thing a little bit more interesting. So today I find myself thinking about the meaning of meaning. So, you know, we just put two and two together and, you know, write this up. And you know, it's a nice comeback because, you know, I haven't really been doing this podcast so much over the past few months. And you know, this AI thing is kind of dominating our lives these days. I have taken the decision to be one of those people who work with AI. You know, as far as I'm concerned, it's just a new tool. And, you know, I don't really afraid that, you know, if I just run in it, if I just hug it up, if I just work with it. And, you know, in my life, when I tell my students I'm older than Google, them always laugh after me. But, you know, it's true, you know, I am Gen X. So that means just me see the rise of the internet, the rise of Google and all them bubble.com bubble and all them thing there. The rise of crypto and look like the fall of it beginning right now with this scandal going on. Anyway, but a whole heap of things me see come up, you know, and go down. And a whole heap of, well, I'm not going to say a whole heap of train, but boy, miss me or anything like that. But I'm not going to make this AI train miss me. So I just put together this tutor. Her name is Sibylla, and she bring me into a reflective state this morning. Boy, I have to kind of, you know, reason with myself. You know, what is the meaning of this? What is the meaning of Sibylla? What is the meaning of AI? What is the meaning of it in terms of my career and my students and my progression, my whole learning journey? So that little monologue we just hear, you know, we just, you know, use a nice voice and put it together still. And I hope it was interesting, informative, educational, or even inspirational to you. And you know, needless to say, Sibylla ready, you know. She run like a bomb. And every time I use her, you know, she surprised me, you know, how smart she is. But when we really think about it, still, as I say, it's a 1.5 year me I work on her, you know. And it's about no less than 3,000 page a programming in it. So anybody who interested, them just head on over to my website. It's called trainingtree.de. And if you're interested in the first pilot program that's going on with Sibylla now, you can just contact me and I will hook you up. Run the pilot program now. There are about 8 people inside already. And, you know, they're working, you know, she's in constant testing every day. And, well, as you can see from the monologue that I just presented, you know, she makes for great inspiration. All right. So that was it. And as I always say, with a small win is always a good way to begin. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. And bye for now.